And so when they were intimate together, what did he do? He deposited his shame that he inherited from his mom into Isabel's sacral chakra. So now Isabel has this emotional block of shame and insecurity. Now, some of this is her shame, some of this is her insecurity, but some of this is deposited there from her boyfriend when they were intimate. He pumped all that shame and insecurity into her, like literally, right? And a lot of it came from his mom too. And isn't it just interesting how energy can transfer? So she's got this block in her sacral chakra. This block right here is going to be at the source of a whole lot of problems. And you're going to see as we move forward in our case example, how this one block can create a whole host of issues for her and her energy field and her life. And I just want to say this is a very simplified example because the majority of us have multiple blocks. But in this case, we're just focusing on one to make it like understandable and relatable. So this block affects the energy her sacral is transmitting to power the second layer of her aura. And her wounding is on psychic display, right? Because if we've got the block of her shame and insecurity in our sacral, and the sacral is transmitting out to create the second layer of the aura, well, what's going to be transmitted out into the second layer? That shame and insecurity. So even if she, for all appearances, looks perfectly put together, her hair is perfect, her makeup's perfect, let's say she's just this gorgeous girl, there's still going to be something in her second layer that's communicating her insecurity and her shame. And people may not see this on a conscious level, but people do see this on a subconscious psychic level, especially predators. Or when I say predator, I mean a person who is going to be attracted to her because of her insecurities, because they're going to see her as easy to manipulate through this wound and due to this wound. And the other thing to remember is this block right here is carrying a frequency, the frequency of insecurity and shame. The insecurity and shame lives in the sacral. So she's got this insecurity and shame energy block. And remember, some of it's hers because she felt insecurity and shame over sharing intimacy with a boy who just dumped her and went and, talked trash about her, but also that he deposited, right? So we got this little combo shame and insecurity block here. And that's interfering with the sacral's ability to just channel this beautiful second layer energy. Okay. And it also is going to make her vulnerable to cords, because wherever there's an energy block, there's a matching frequency to an energetic cord. So her next boyfriend, right? He's going to cord her sacral chakra, but he wouldn't be able to cord it if she didn't have any energy blocks here, okay? But because of this block, it's a match, and his cord. Now, her new boyfriend, he has shame and insecurity. I mean, we all do, right? Let's just be real here. And his shame and insecurity, it might be his own flavor of shame and insecurity, but you watched one of my videos on my most recent root chakra video where I talk about how people will cord other people to deposit their emotional energy that they can't release. And that's one of their ways of releasing it. So he's just like, oh, okay, she's got a match in her sacral, so I can put a cord on it. And now I have a way to release all of my shame and insecurity without having to process it myself. So our new boyfriend is essentially pumping his shame and insecurity into her sacral chakra through his energetic cord. And when emotional energy blocks get corded, it results in triggered insecurity, jealousy, and anxiety. And I want to point out here, she's not occupying this part of her sacral chakra. If she attempts to move her energy into this part of her sacral, she's going to feel shame and insecurity. And nobody wants to feel shame and insecurity. And Isabel definitely doesn't want to feel it. So she is just not occupying this space. One, because when she does go to there, it's uncomfortable. She doesn't want to feel it. And for 2, because she can't really, right? Because there's something there that's blocking her from being able to. But when it gets corded and he starts pumping all his shame and insecurity into her, there's a frequency match to the shame and insecurity. She starts feeling it because it's cording it. It's being corded, so it's being agitated. And he's also adding more, and she thinks it's hers. So she starts feeling all this shame and insecurity in her current relationship. She's not able to identify that shame and insecurity is not her own because it's touching hers. So she thinks it's hers, right? So she's feeling insecure and jealous and anxious. And here, these clouds here are representing that emotional process. Now, she's not feeling it as a block unless she goes there. The block is a repressed emotion that we dissociate from, right? But when it's corded and agitated, it just like generates this. Now she's feeling it. So this is felt emotion. This is the repressed emotion in the block. This is felt emotion in the clouds. So she, right now, she is feeling insecure and shameful and jealous and triggered, right? That's what a trigger is when a block gets corded. Entities and attachments, they're like the energetic pests, and they're attracted to the negative emotions and feed on them, which you know, right? So here come the entities and attachments, and I just use little bats to demonstrate entities and attachments. And you'll see this is going to begin to look more and more like a Halloween ad, a Halloween image as we move forward, all the orange but this is people's energy fields do look that way. And that's why I'm trying so hard to just like convey that and raise awareness about that. Okay, so here's entities and attachments. They're like, yum, yum, yum. We want to eat all this energy. They're in the same frequency, right? Every low frequency negative emotional energy is going to have a correlation to an entity attachment because entities attachments live in the low frequencies. So you have a low frequency emotion, like that's their sustenance. They need that to strengthen their frequency. Okay, right? And they'll keep wounds regularly triggered, which is going to amplify the insecurity, jealousy, and anxiety. So not only do we got the cord triggering it, and I say wound, but what is a wound? An energy block, right? It's going to amplify insecurity, jealousy, and anxiety. So now there's a whole bunch going on. And now she is feeling really jealous, really insecure, really shameful, really anxious because it's all agitated in her field. And the entities are doing this so they can feast. They also can write in to chakras from cords. So let's say her new boyfriend, he has entities and attachments in his field and he cords her. So now because she's corded by him, the entities, attachments in his field have a way in. They can write into her sacral and her energy field via his cord to her. See how this block just started a whole host of issues for her in the sacral? Like, Lord. Okay, so the goal in healing is to discover and clear the stuck emotional energetic block. That's the goal because it's at the source of all of these issues, right? It's at the source. If there's no block, then we don't have any of this going on. It's the repressed emotional energy that's sourcing it all the issues. Here's the thing though, the entities, attachments, and cords are preventing the block from being cleared. And this is what I want you to think of. If you have a shed and you put all this stuff in the shed that you don't know what to do with, but you never go in the shed because it's dark, there's spiders. Let's say there's spiders, there's rats, there's mice, maybe even a squatter. You're not going to go in that shed. If there is a box covered in spiders, you're not going to grab that box and empty it out, are you? No, nobody wants to do that. Freaking spiders on it. But if there was no like homeless person living in your shed or spiders or mice or rats or whatever, then you're going to feel like it's a little bit more approachable. And that's just how it works with entities, attachments. Cords would be like if there's a lock on your shed, like, well, that's a block, right? That's a block. Because the lock would be like the cord and then like someone else has the key to the lock. So the first step is you got to get the entities and attachments out of the way. And that's why I do this a lot. Like, we got to clear the invasive energies and we request the angels' help. And here's my animation to demonstrate that, right? And you can say it out loud or in your mind. Just, angels, please clear mine or my client or your client's name, whoever you're healing, sacral chakra, of all entities and attachments. This is going to get a lot of them. Here we go. Here's my animation for that. The angels, the reason why, okay, for one, because permission. For two, because when you make that request and you offer coordinates, right, out of my sacral, they can just direct their high frequency, because they exist and hold high frequency. So directing that high frequency into that area. And as they do so, that high frequency introduced to low frequency, right, to these invasives, it's just going to clear them. And that's why that works. Okay. But now she still has all that triggered emotional energy. She's like in this cloud of triggered emotional energy. And as you know, you can clear triggered emotional energy relatively easily. You can wash it away with divine golden healing water. You work with that element of water and just allow it. And that can be your energetic disposal. Just let that. Or you can just wash it. You can wash it out into the earth, wash it out into the earth. There's a lot of different techniques that you could use to clear triggered emotional energy. It's really easy to clear triggered emotional energy. Okay, so now we got all the triggered emotional energy out of the way. Yay. So first we had to get rid of the attachments, then we had to get rid of that triggered emotional energy. She's going to feel better now. Like, let's say if this is you, or if this is a client or someone you're offering healing for, she's going to feel better, because all this stuff that was in her aura, this is all the emotional stuff that she was processing and feeling. But if this isn't addressed, it's just going to happen again, right? We got to get that cord off and the block out too. So now we got to dissolve the cords. Now, I want to mention about dissolving the cords, okay? So you can dissolve an energetic cord with high frequency energy and intention. You can. But I do always mention to try to get manually involved with it. And I'm going to share with you a quick story on why. I used to have a client who was really kind of a codependent client. She had a lot of toxic relationships, and she was always getting corded. And I used to have a session called a ninja, and I called it a ninja because if somebody was in energetic crisis, they could just get the ninja and I would just go into astral and clear them, right? And then they would be better. And so she was always getting these ninja sessions from me. And the other thing that was beautiful about her was the fact that she was really excellent at giving me feedback. So if she wasn't getting a shift, she'd be like, no, I still feel it. I still feel it. I still feel it. Because she was really, really heightened energetic sensitivity. So if I didn't get it, she would tell me, no, it's still there. But if I get it, she'd say, oh yeah, that's better. Okay, I'm better. Thank you. And she was always corded. So she would like get her ninja from me. Woman always had cords. She had multiple relationships with men and toxic relationships with multiple men. She had multiple toxic relationships with multiple men. So she was always corded, especially to her sacral. And she was always getting these ninjas from me. And so I'd go into astral to take off these cords. And very often she would be like, I don't know, I still feel it. I still feel it. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get my tools. I'm going to get hands-on with it. And every time I got hands-on with it and I would just grab the cord out, she'd be like, oh, there it is. I get the relief now. And that was when I learned, yeah, sometimes you really do just have to kind of get hands-on with those cords. But that doesn't mean that visualization and intention doesn't work for cords. It really just depends on the strength of it and how active it is. So I just wanted to put that in there really quick. So you're either manually clearing the cord or clearing the cord using divine healing energy. Now the cord's out of the way. Remember, we could not clear that block until the cord was out of the way, right? And then we'll address the rest of it, getting the cords and now the block. The next step is going to be to dissolve the stuck emotional energy block with divine golden healing light. And here's another caveat. It is a little bit easier to clear the block if you can get it out of the chakra first. Same thing as the cord. If you want to grab it and pull it out manually, you might have more success than if you're trying to clear it inside the chakra. And you can try and experiment either way, but sometimes it really is best to just pull it out of the chakra and then clear it. And you can do that through intention, visualization, or manual, just like I say with the cords. But you could also just bring that divine healing energy into the chakra where the blocks are to dissolve and clear them. This is when, if you're working on a client or you're working on yourself, you know you're on that block when you feel that emotional release, right? When you feel the emotion surface, the block, as it breaks up and dissolves, it's going to end up turning into all those clouds in the second layer like we saw initially. But that's not triggered emotional energy. That's releasing emotional energy. As you pull it out, it might start to cloud up the aura. And this is where other healers tend to maybe like miss this part, is they may not be really good about energetic disposal following session, and it will eventually work its way out, but you can clear it for them so that they don't have as much release time to process. So you can dissolve it in the chakra, or you can pull it out and dissolve it in its entirety. It will usually inevitably leave some clouds. So that's why you always want to make sure they're grounding really good after too. Just get all that flushed out. Okay. And you can do this every time you feel triggered. And this is when a trigger becomes a blessing. Because if you feel triggered, you're like, oh, there's a block. There's a block there. And you can find that freaking block, because blocks hide. But if you get triggered, that's pointing the way to you to where a block is. And that's a good thing, because the more blocks you can clear, the more immune you become to cords, right? And invasives and all of the stuff that sucks to go through. And your angels want you to know they love you. They're here to help you. The more you put effort into healing and clearing yourself, the more they're going to just support you. They're always going to match your efforts.